We often talk about what women want in relationships. We analyze behavior, dissect communication patterns, and debate strategies, but today let's flip the script. Let's talk about what emotionally available men are actually drawn to, and why it matters more than you think. Emotionally available men aren't perfect. They're not superheroes. They've struggled, they've failed, and they've healed. That's the key. They've healed, and healing brings clarity. It brings a new set of values into focus. These men don't want drama. They're not looking for someone to fix or be fixed by. They're not interested in power plays or emotional chaos disguised as passion. They crave connection. Real, grounded, honest connection. So what exactly are they drawn to? The answer is simple, but not always easy. They're attracted to women who have done the work, women who show up as themselves, not a curated version for validation, women who are emotionally self-sufficient, not emotionally closed off. There's a big difference between needing no one and choosing someone intentionally. These men notice the small things, how a woman sets boundaries with grace, how she speaks kindly about herself and others, how she doesn't shrink to make someone else feel big. That energy, quiet confidence without arrogance, is magnetic. They are drawn to women who don't perform love, but practice it. Who don't play games to manipulate affection, but communicate their needs with clarity and compassion. Because here's the truth. Emotionally available men don't fear vulnerability. They respect it. And they want someone who respects it too. Perhaps most of all, they are drawn to women who are present. Not stuck in old wounds, not rehearsing future pain, but grounded in the now. Women who can sit in silence without discomfort, listen without defensiveness, love without losing themselves. When a woman knows her worth, she doesn't need to convince someone to see it. She doesn't need to chase love, she invites it. And emotionally available men, they recognize that strength. They're drawn to it because it matches their own. The world is full of people who are attracted to potential, but emotionally available men, they're attracted to wholeness, not perfection. Wholeness. A woman who has taken the time to meet herself, love herself, and lead with authenticity. Emotionally available men are drawn to emotional honesty, not emotional performance. It's a distinction that seems subtle on the surface, but it carries incredible weight in the quality and depth of a relationship. Emotional honesty is about authenticity, showing up as you are, with no mask, no filter, and no attempt to become someone you're not for the sake of being loved. It's about owning your feelings, your fears, your past, and your hopes, and bringing them to the table with courage. It's about being seen, not just being liked. Emotionally available men recognize this difference immediately because they've likely experienced both. They've seen what emotional performance looks like, the curated image, the rehearsed vulnerability, the careful calculations of what to say or how to act to win attention. And while it may appear attractive at first, over time it starts to feel hollow, like a show that never ends, a performance that never reveals the real person behind the curtain. Emotional performance is driven by fear. Fear of rejection, fear of being judged, fear of not being enough. It's an exhausting dance, and eventually the truth always slips through. What emotionally available men truly want is someone who isn't afraid to be honest about what they feel, even when it's messy, even when it's uncertain. They respect someone who says, I'm struggling right now, instead of pretending to be fine. Or someone who can say, I need space without guilt or apology. Emotional honesty builds trust because there's no guessing game involved. There's no second guessing intentions or decoding cryptic messages. Everything is laid out clearly, and that clarity is deeply attractive to a man who's done the emotional work himself. These men are not interested in pretending anymore. They're not seduced by surface-level charm or manipulative tactics designed to spark insecurity. They're not impressed by games that confuse rather than connect. They're drawn to clarity, sincerity, and self-awareness. When a woman is emotionally honest, she sends a powerful message, not just about who she is, but about how she expects to be treated. She's not afraid to say no, not afraid to express her needs, and not afraid to let someone walk away if they can't meet her where she is. There's also a profound sense of safety that comes with emotional honesty, and safety is the cornerstone of emotional intimacy. A man who is emotionally available wants to build something stable, something real. He needs to know that he can be himself, his full imperfect self, without being judged or manipulated. And that's only possible when the other person is grounded in their own emotional truth. When both people are being honest about who they are and what they feel, they create space for something far deeper than attraction. They create connection. Emotional honesty also means consistency. It's not just about saying the right things, it's about aligning your words with your actions. Emotionally available men are not impressed by declarations of love that disappear the moment things get difficult. They look for someone who stands by their values, communicates openly, and shows up with integrity, especially when it's inconvenient or uncomfortable. At the end of the day, emotional honesty is not about being perfect. It's not about always knowing the right thing to say or do. It's about being real. And that realness is what emotionally available men are searching for. Not a role to be played, but a person to be known. When they find it, they hold on to it because they know how rare and powerful it truly is. They value women who set boundaries with kindness. It's one of the clear signs of emotional maturity, and emotionally available men recognize it instantly. Boundaries are not walls. They're not cold, rigid, or dismissive. They are invitations, clear markers that show where respect begins and where confusion ends. And when a woman sets them with kindness, it communicates something powerful. She respects herself, and she respects others enough to be clear about what she needs. Emotionally available men have done enough inner work to know that a relationship without boundaries is a breeding ground for resentment, confusion, and emotional burnout. They've lived through those experiences. Relationships where everything felt like a guessing game, where saying no came with guilt, or where they were expected to read minds and fix problems they didn't create. So when they meet a woman who calmly, kindly communicates what's okay and what isn't, they feel relief. They feel safe, they feel seen. Kindness doesn't mean weakness, and boundaries don't mean distance. In fact, setting boundaries is one of the most generous things a person can do in a relationship. It removes the guesswork. It lets the other person know how to love you better. It says, I trust you enough to tell you the truth about what I need. And emotionally available men don't just appreciate that, they admire it. A woman who sets boundaries with kindness knows her worth. She doesn't over-explain, over-apologize, or bend herself backwards to keep someone around. She's not driven by fear of abandonment, but by a deep understanding that healthy love honors mutual respect. She knows that saying no when she means no, or yes when she means yes, is not harsh. It's honest. It's how she protects her peace and preserves her energy for relationships that truly matter. This kind of clarity is rare. And emotionally available men are drawn to it because it mirrors their own emotional standards. They're not looking to dominate or control. They're looking to connect with someone who honors herself enough to set the tone for how she wants to be treated. There's a quiet strength in that, a softness that doesn't compromise on truth, a warmth that says, you're welcome here, but only if you can meet me with respect. Kind boundaries also teach others how to grow. They offer feedback without shame. They open space for conversation rather than conflict. When a woman can say, I care about you, but I need this to feel respected, it invites deeper understanding. It gives both people a chance to rise, to reflect, and to choose how they want to show up. That's where real intimacy begins, not in the absence of limits, but in the presence of mutual accountability. Emotionally available men don't want a partner who agrees with everything. They want a partner who speaks her truth with grace. Someone who can be both firm and gentle, assertive and compassionate. Someone who leads with love, but doesn't abandon herself in the process. That balance, that beautiful tension between kindness and clarity is what earns trust. Boundaries also show emotional resilience. They reveal someone who has learned from their past, who's no longer willing to settle for relationships that drain or confuse. And for a man who is emotionally available, that's not intimidating, it's inspiring. It tells him he's with someone who has the capacity for a real, enduring connection. And ultimately, kindness and boundaries isn't about controlling others. It's about guiding the relationship into a space where both people can feel respected, safe, and fully themselves. And when that space is created, love has room to grow, honestly, fearlessly, and deeply. True attraction lies in presence, not in appearance, not in charm, not even in shared interests, but in the ability to be fully genuinely present. Emotionally available men know this because they've reached a point in life where surface level attraction isn't enough. They crave depth. They seek out that quiet but unmistakable energy of someone who is rooted in the moment, grounded in themselves, and truly there, not just physically, but emotionally and mentally. Presence is rare, especially in a world that constantly pulls our attention in 1,000 directions. Most people are caught between their past and their future, replaying old wounds or anxiously forecasting what's next. But presence means something different. It's the ability to pause, to listen without interrupting, to look someone in the eye and really see them. When a woman is present, she's not trying to impress. She's not waiting for her turn to speak. She's not filtering her words to sound more lovable or agreeable. She's simply there, being real, being attentive, and that kind of presence is magnetic. It draws people in without trying. It makes a man feel like he matters, like he's not just another task on someone's to-do list. It makes space for trust to grow, and trust is what deep connection is built on. Emotionally available men don't just want to be around someone who looks good, they want to be around someone who feels good to be with. Someone who is calm without being passive, curious without being intrusive, engaged without being overwhelming. Presence speaks of emotional maturity. It shows that a person is comfortable in their own skin, that they don't need to constantly prove their worth. And that's incredibly attractive. Presence also brings out authenticity. When someone is truly present, they're not performing, they're not clinging to who they think they should be, they're just being. And emotionally available men are not fooled by pretense. They're drawn to the unpolished, unscripted moments that reveal someone's character. They notice how a woman carries herself when she's not being watched, how she responds when no one is trying to impress her. Presence reveals who someone really is. And for the right man, that's where true beauty lives. There's also a certain peace that presence brings. It slows things down, it quiets the noise. In a world that is constantly rushing, constantly distracted, the ability to be still and engaged is a gift. It tells a man, I'm here, and this moment matters to me. That kind of energy is rare, and it's what makes it unforgettable. Being present also means being emotionally available. It means being willing to feel what you feel without judgment, to sit in silence without trying to fill it, to stay open even when things get uncomfortable. It's not always easy, but it's powerful. It builds emotional safety. And that safety is what allows love to deepen, slowly, steadily, without fear. Emotionally available men can sense when a woman is with them only halfway, when part of her is elsewhere, distracted or holding back. But when she's truly present, he feels it. He relaxes. He opens up. Because presence doesn't demand anything, it invites. It says you can be yourself here, and that's where the real magic of attraction begins. True presence isn't loud. It doesn't need to be. It's felt in the small moments, the pauses, the eye contact, the patience. And that's what emotionally available men are searching for. Not noise, not performance, but the quiet, powerful truth of someone who's really there. Self-worth is magnetic. It draws people in without effort, without chasing, without needing to prove anything. It's the silent energy that surrounds someone who knows their value and lives in alignment with it. Emotionally available men are deeply attracted to this kind of presence, not because it's flashy or loud, but because it feels solid, grounded, and real. Self-worth changes the entire dynamic of how someone enters and sustains a relationship. When a woman truly knows her worth, she doesn't settle. She doesn't make excuses for poor behavior. She doesn't beg for attention or shapeshift to earn love. She understands that love built on self-abandonment is not love at all. It's dependency dressed in disguise. And emotionally available men recognize that difference. They are drawn to women who don't chase love, but instead attract it through the way they show up for themselves. A woman with self-worth walks differently in the world, not arrogantly, not with superiority, but with quiet confidence. She trusts her own voice. She knows her limits. She knows what energizes her and what drains her. She chooses herself not as an act of selfishness, but as an act of clarity. That self-respect becomes her compass, guiding who she lets in, what she tolerates, and how she engages with others. What makes this so powerful is that it creates emotional safety. Emotionally available men feel more open around someone who doesn't need constant reassurance, who doesn't get lost in jealousy or crumble under pressure. That stability, emotional, mental, and spiritual, is magnetic. It invites a deeper kind of relationship, one built not on fear or insecurity, but on mutual respect and admiration. Self-worth also shows up in the way a woman handles rejection or disappointment. When something doesn't work out, she doesn't fall apart. She doesn't internalize it as a statement of her value. She sees it for what it is, a misalignment, not a reflection of her worth. That emotional resilience is powerful. It tells a man, you're welcome here, but I'll be fine either way. And that's not coldness, it's strength. It's the strength to love fully without losing yourself in the process. Women with self-worth speak differently too. They communicate with clarity instead of manipulation. They ask for what they need instead of hinting or testing. They apologize when they're wrong, but don't shrink to keep the peace. They know that honesty is an act of love, not conflict. And emotionally available men, the ones who crave substance, find that honesty deeply attractive. Another key aspect of self-worth is discernment. It's not about being open to everyone, it's about choosing wisely. A woman who values herself doesn't just fall for attention, she looks for alignment. She wants connection, not chaos. Depth, not drama. She isn't impressed by surface-level charm or temporary affection. She's looking for consistency, character, and commitment. And she knows she's worth waiting for that. Mostly available men are often on a journey of healing, just like the women they seek. They understand what it means to build love, not just fall into it. So when they meet a woman who has done her own work, who holds herself with grace and strength, they see it instantly. There's no guessing game, no power struggle, just two people standing in their worth, willing to build something real together. Self-worth doesn't chase, it attracts. It doesn't beg, it invites. And that invitation, the quiet confidence of someone who knows they are enough, is what draws the right people in. It's not loud, but it's impossible to ignore. And to the right man, it's absolutely magnetic. They're not looking for someone to fix. Emotionally available men are no longer in the business of rescuing people. They've grown past the illusion that love means saving someone from themselves. They've learned often the hard way that being a partner is not the same as being a therapist, a parent, or an emotional crutch. What they seek now is a relationship built on mutual growth, not one-sided effort. They want to build with someone, not rebuild someone. Emotionally available men are drawn to women who take ownership of their own healing. This doesn't mean being flawless or having everything figured out. No one does. But it does mean being self-aware, emotionally accountable, and willing to take responsibility for your patterns and responses. These men are not afraid of vulnerability or imperfection. What they are cautious of is emotional dependency. They know that being someone's only source of stability, happiness, or purpose isn't romantic, it's exhausting. They've been there, and they're not going back. A woman who constantly needs saving becomes a project, not a partner. And emotionally available men didn't do all that inner work just to re-enter cycles of dysfunction. They're not interested in drama masked as passion or in chaos disguised as depth. They don't want to be with someone who refuses to grow, who relies on pity to keep love alive, or who thinks that suffering is the glue that holds a relationship together. What they do want is a woman who is on her own journey, who's doing the work not to be perfect, but to be whole. They respect emotional responsibility. They admire someone who says, I'm still learning, or I'm working through this, instead of blaming others or playing the victim. That honesty creates space for true partnership. It allows both people to stand on their own feet and walk beside each other rather than one carrying the other through life. Fixing someone also disrupts the balance of power in a relationship. One person becomes the savior, the other the saved. That dynamic may feel powerful at first, but it quickly leads to resentment and imbalance. Emotionally available men want equality. They want someone who brings their own strength, their own voice, their own light, not someone who needs them to feel whole. Because when both people are strong in themselves, they can build something far stronger together. These men are also aware that people have to choose growth for themselves. No amount of love, support, or patience can force someone to change if they're not willing. They've learned to spot the difference between someone who's wounded but healing and someone who uses their pain as an excuse to stay stagnant. Emotionally available men are compassionate, but they know that compassion without boundaries turns into self-sacrifice. and they refuse to lose themselves in someone else's chaos. They're not drawn to helplessness. They're drawn to resilience, to someone who's walked through fire and came out wiser, softer, and more grounded. Someone who doesn't need to be saved because she already saved herself. That kind of strength is beautiful. It's inspiring. It's what makes a man want to show up fully, not because he has to fix you, but because he wants to grow with you. Emotionally available men have no interest in playing hero. They're not here to complete you. They're here to connect with someone who has already begun the process of completing themselves. They want partnership, not dependency. Growth, not chaos. Love that uplifts, not love that drains. And when they meet someone who isn't looking to be fixed, but to be met, fully and honestly, that's when everything changes. Wholeness beats potential. Every time. Emotionally available men have learned that it's far more fulfilling to be with someone who knows who they are than with someone who's still waiting to become who they could be. They're no longer enchanted by the idea of what if. They're grounded in reality. And in that reality, they know that love built on potential is often just hope dressed up in projection. It's a gamble. Wholeness, on the other hand, is steady. It's clear, it's real. When a woman shows up whole, she's not waiting to be completed. She's not hoping someone else will come in and give her life meaning. She's already rooted in purpose, in passion, in presence. That doesn't mean she's perfect. Wholeness has nothing to do with perfection. It means she's in alignment with herself. She knows her values, she owns her flaws, and she's committed to growth, not because she's broken, but because she honors her evolution. Emotionally available men recognize this instantly. They're not looking to be someone's builder or motivator. They want someone who brings her own fire, her own clarity, her own fullness into the relationship. Potential might look exciting on the surface, but it comes with conditions. It says, this could be something amazing if she changes, if she heals, if she grows. That if becomes the foundation of uncertainty, and emotionally available men have learned that it's not love if you're constantly waiting for the other person to catch up. Wholeness creates stability. It allows for honesty, for healthy communication, for true intimacy. A woman who feels whole isn't afraid to speak up. She doesn't disappear into the relationship or lose herself trying to keep the peace. She contributes not just emotionally, but mentally and spiritually. She meets her partner where he is because she's already met herself. Potential can be blinding. It's easy to fall in love with an idea. The idea of who someone might become if everything falls into place. But emotionally available men have learned the difference between falling for an idea and showing up for a person. They want to be with someone who is here now, not stuck in someday. They know that building a healthy relationship takes two whole people, not one pulling the other across the finish line. Wholeness also signals emotional responsibility. It shows that a person has done the work to understand themselves, to process their wounds, to take ownership of their patterns. Emotionally available men don't want to spend their time walking on eggshells or decoding mixed signal. They want clarity. They want emotional maturity. They want a partner who can sit in discomfort without making it a crisis. A partner who can disagree without destroying connection. A partner who knows that love is not about saving or fixing, but about choosing every day with intention. When a woman is whole, she doesn't need someone to fill the gaps. She's not in a relationship to be rescued or validated. She's there to share, to grow, to build. And that energy, that self-contained, self-aware strength, is deeply attractive to the man who's also done his own inner work. It tells him, I don't need you to complete me, I want you to join me. And that invitation is powerful. Emotionally available men aren't interested in potential because they've learned that love thrives when both people are already grounded in who they are. They're not looking for someone to mold or improve. They're looking for someone to witness, to appreciate, and to grow alongside, someone who brings her own wholeness, her own peace, and her own truth to the table. In the end, wholeness beats potential because it's real, it's present, it's not based on promises or future versions. It's based on two people as they are, choosing to meet each other fully, not in fantasy, but in truth. That kind of love, that's the kind that lasts.